Welcome back to MitoTalk Deep Dive, where we explore the microscopic engines that drive life itself. I'm Dr. Sukant Khurana, and today's episode titled Complex 4, The Final Frame, will illuminate the final act of cellular respiration. Here, the inner folds of mitochondria, complex 4, also known as cytochrome C oxidase, acts as sacred firekeeper, completing electron transport chain by reducing oxygen to water and pumping the last protons to build ATP. Joining us again is trusted guide to mitochondrial mysteries, Basudha Banerjee. Welcome back, Basudha.
Always a pleasure, Dr. Khurana. Complex 4, elegant and decisive, that is the last gate through which electrons pass before powering life.
Okay, let's start with the fundamentals. What exactly is complex 4's role?
Complex 4, that is the cytochrome C oxidase, that is the final enzyme of the ETC. It accepts electrons from cytochrome C and uses them to reduce the molecular oxygen to water. And this entire reaction is coupled with the pumping of total 4 protons across the mitochondrial inner membrane for every pair of electrons. And these pumped protons contribute to the electrochemical gradient, which ATP synthase further uses to create the ATP. It is the final flame, the point where the potential energy from food finally becomes into usable power.
Okay, can you describe the structural elegance, structure of complex 4?
Absolutely. Complex 4 is overall composed of 13 subunits in the mammals, but its core functional engine comprises 3 mitochondrial DNA encoded subunits, the COX1, COX2, and COX3. Within these subunits, you'll find 2 heme groups, the heme A and heme A3, and 2 copper centers, copper A, copper B. The actual reduction of oxygen to water happens at the binucleus center, which is formed by the heme A2 and copper B, which bind oxygen and orchestrate the 4 electron transfer to make the 2 water molecules without releasing any dangerous ROS. So it is an incredibly precise process and a marvel of biochemical engineering.
Okay, so what happens when complex 4 malfunctions?
In that case, several things can go wrong. So mutations in the COX subunits or defects in any assembly protein or even cytochrome C deficiencies can impair the activity of complex 4. This leads to reduced ATP production, electron backup, and ROS accumulation. So overall, this might lead to a lot of clinical outcomes that might translate into Leigh syndrome or mitochondrial encephalomyopathies, muscle hypotonia, and lactic acidosis, or even cardiac dysfunction in infants. In neurodegeneration, such as Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, there is a growing evidence that subtle complex 4 deficiencies contribute to the chronic energy deficits in neurons and increased oxidative stress.
Are there current or experimental therapies that target complex 4?
Yes, there are, though it is quite challenging because you don't, of course, want to block complex 4. That is lethal, but you can stabilize it, enhance its efficiency, or even bypass the downstream dysfunctions. So some strategies could include allosteric modulators of the cytochrome oxidase that can improve the proton pumping efficiency. Then we have copper chaperone mimetics that enhance the metal cofactor delivery. Alternatively, we have gene therapy trials for mutation in the COX subunits and mitochondria-targeted antioxidants. These help to control the ROS generated whenever complex 4 is sluggish. And we also have exercise mimetics, which naturally would upregulate the expression of complex 4. There are also emerging research on using photobiomodulation, which is low-level red light, to stimulate the cytochrome C oxidase activity, and overall it would improve the mitochondrial function.
Well, that's quite impressive. As we've discussed in previous episodes, AI is transforming mitochondrial research. What does that look like for complex 4?
AI is doing wonders in a few key areas. So for complex 4, It can help in predicting the pathogenic mutations in the COX genes. It can model the electron transfer and oxygen binding dynamics. Additionally, it can help to design molecules to avoid the ROS generation at the oxygen reduction site. And simultaneously, it can simulate how oxygen availability, membrane potential, and even redox signals can impact complex 4 across different tissues and metabolic states. So currently, we are using AI to screen small molecule activators that can boost complex 4 activity under hypoxic or even aging conditions, which seems to be a very promising strategy for cognitive decline and muscle fatigue.
Well, one thing I find fascinating is how complex 4 doesn't work in isolation.
Absolutely. So it forms a part of the respirosomes, supercomplexes within the complex 1 and 3, overall enhancing the efficiency and reducing ROS. And its performance also feeds back into oxygen sensing, apoptotic pathways, and even gene expression in the nucleus. So, overall, complex 4 is both a metabolic executor and a cellular communicator. It links energy with fate.
Okay, is there a role for complex 4 in longevity science?
Definitely. So, aging cells often show decline in the complex 4 activity, especially in the hippocampus, retina, and the heart. By maintaining a robust complex 4 function, we can delay mitochondrial collapse, reduce inflammation, and sustain the energy demanding processes like memory consolidation and muscle repair. So, several longevity approaches from calorie restriction mimetics to NAD plus boosters, they all aim to preserve the complex 4 integrity. So, protecting the final flame may help keep the whole cellular furnace going well into the old age.
Well, that's a beautiful way to put it. Any final insights?
Definitely. So complex 1 is it's the gatekeeper, but complex 4 is the flame that sanctifies life's energy ritual. It demands precision, respect, and care. And in return, it offers the quiet fire of vitality.
Well, thank you once again, Basudha. To our audience, may your mitochondria burn bright and clean. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and check out our previous episodes on complexes 1 to 3. Coming up is will be the grand turbine where energy becomes currency. Until the next time, I'm Dr. Sukant Khurana. Stay curious and fuel your life wisely. Thank you, Vasudha, for being. Thank you,
Thank,
audience.
thank you very much.